We are thrilled to be joined by LA Kings goalie, proud Alaskan, Pheonix Copley. Greetings to you in snowy Southern California. Is that still happening down there?
Actually, we're on the road right now in Winnipeg.
Oh, so God, that's right. You're in Winnipeg. Well, you're snowing.
We got the snow here. But, I heard the weather there has been kind of crazy since we left.
Yeah, you brought it with you, I guess.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about the trade deadline and how this time of year, given the way your situation changed, is different. But it's not just about the deadline. A lot's changed for you year over year. So how are things different, and what have the last couple months been like? I know it's a big question, but I mean, you look where you've been in the past. It's pretty strong 180 for you.
Yeah. So I mean, as far as the deadline, that like what happens at the deadlines, I just kind of chalk that up as out of my control. So, I try not to really think about that too much, but, and then, this year is kind of an unpredictable circumstances and how it's played out. The last few years, I've been trying to earn an NHL opportunity, and it wasn't really happening. And so, I signed with a different organization this summer, and my goal is just to kind of put myself in a good spot and try and, earn an opportunity and then be ready whenever the opportunity came. And so, fortunately it came this year, and I've been able to just kind of, do my best to make the most of it. And, so it's been, I'm fortunate to be with this organization and an organization that's so, driven to win. I'm just kind of, every time they give me an opportunity to play, I want to do my best to give the team a chance to win. And that's been my outlook on it since the start.
Is this what you expected when you signed with the Kings? And I know there were some, unexpected moves maybe early in the season with them, but when you were picking your destination, in the off season, is this how you saw it panning out?
I mean, not exactly. It's hard to predict these kind of things. I just wanted to pick an organization where I felt like I could earn an opportunity, and I'd heard a lot of good things about the staff here and the goalie coaches, both in the American League with Matty Miller and then obviously with Billy Ranford here. I heard a lot of good things about those guys, and so I felt like regardless of where I was, I would be able to keep improving my game. So it just seemed like a good fit for me to try and put myself in a good spot to play.
So how difficult is it for you to acclimate to a new team, to a new system, especially if you go from AHL to NHL or from team to team? Like what are the challenges for any goalie in that case?
It's kind of different going into a whole new organization. I had been traded once before, so I was in the Capitals organization. I was in that organization for a long time, and then I was traded after my first year and then traded back to Washington a year later. So it's kind of an interesting turn of events there, but it was nice to kind of get that opportunity to go to another organization, kind of see what that's like. So I kind of had a little bit of an idea of, going to an organization. It's just kind of, you start from scratch and getting to know the guys, getting to know the staff, just getting comfortable with how things are done in the new organization. That's kind of, I guess where the first thing is just getting kind of comfortable there. And so that was kind of what I was doing in training camp, and getting to know the guys and seeing how things are done. And then mid-season when it happens, like when you get called up, you're usually pretty familiar with guys because training camp, you're spending time with them. And as a goalie, you're familiar with the goalie coaches both in the American League and NHL. So that's not such a big jump. So it's really just kind of, getting in the group with the team and getting in the group with the schedule, because a big difference is the American League schedule is a lot more weekend games, and it's a little different in that regard, where the NHL is it's like every other day you're playing. So that was kind of an adjustment in getting used to the different schedule.
I'm sure we'll ask about the workload in a minute, but I did want to ask about Bill Ranford. You mentioned him specifically. Is there, as kind of a motivating factor for you to sign with the organization? What is it about him? Like, is there anything in particular where you saw him, in the run up when you're making the decision, stuff you've heard, whatever, where you're like, okay, that's a guy I want to align myself with. That's a guy I want to work with.
Well, obviously his resume as a goalie kind of speaks for itself. He had a outstanding career in the NHL. So, and then just kind of his demeanor, he has that experience. He's been through, obviously tons of ups and downs with his own career, and then as a coach. So he just has like a calming effect, I think, where it's just nice to be around that. And he kind of, his coaching style is kind of, he lets us kind of work through some things, and he gives us what we need with video and reviewing games, and then we kind of get to work through some stuff that we want to get better at ourselves, and he'll set up the drills obviously, but we can kind of work through some stuff ourselves, which I think is it. Yeah, I think it's nice for me personally. I'm always trying to improve certain things, and so it's nice to have that where it just gives us this space. But I think the biggest thing with him is just his presence, his experience.
So how much do you work with a goalie coach versus the head coach? Like, how much on a daily basis do you communicate, about your game with the head coach versus who's starting and who isn't?
I think that's probably something is different per organization. Here, I think it's mostly through Billy. Billy is kind of who we communicate through, and then he's the one that we're going through game tape with, and in practice, if we want to work on something, he'll help us set up a drill. So it's mostly through Billy.
How has the dynamic with Jonathan Quick been? I think I know what your answer is going to be there, but I mean, his resume speaks for itself. He had a huge win, tied Tom Barrasso a few days ago. But what's it been like working with him, and how has stuff unfolded with you two over the last couple months?
Yeah, Quickie's been awesome. He's been an unbelievable teammate. He's another one of those guys who he's had such a long career. He's been through so many glorious moments as a goalie. He's got a great resume, so it's cool to be around that and see how he carries himself. And yeah, like I said, he's been a great teammate. And guys that play for so long, there's always stuff you can learn from them. So I'm always trying to pick up different things. Like, he's been in the NHL for so long. There's a reason why he's been in the NHL for so long. So I just try and learn from him, and he's been super supportive and helpful for me. So that's been awesome to be his partner. What
kind of stuff have you learned from him? Because I know, not a lot of guys stylistically are like him. I know there's some differences between he and you there, but what can you draw from him? Is it like load management, or like what's the biggest thing he brings to the table in terms of the advice you seek from him day in and day out?
Yeah, he's another guy who has a good presence. He's an older guy who is kind of steady as you go. It's not, nothing too high, nothing too low. So I think, like you said, we don't play really the same. So, there's certain things I can learn from him, goaltending wise, but I feel like it's more mental stuff that I learned from Quickie. But yeah, no one really plays like Quickie. He's got his own style, and he's had, I watched him growing up, and he's always had that explosive, he makes huge saves that only Quickie can make.
Do you ever remind him that you watched him growing up?
I don't think I've ever told him that, but I remember their first playoff run. I was in Alaska. I remember that one against New York, and that was cool.
Yeah, I was just going to ask that same thing. Do you ever remind him? So, there's going to be other goalies coming up the ranks who are going to say the same thing. They watched Quick growing up. Do you think that any goalies are going to start trending towards his game, or are there other trends you think stylistically we're going to start seeing in the next couple of years from goalies? That's
a good question. I don't know. I feel like it's kind of unpredictable. If someone knew like where goaltending was going, they would be at the cutting edge. I think watching young guys, watching World Juniors, that's kind of where the game is going. How those guys are playing, that's kind of where it's going. And but there's always outliers. There's guys who play their own style. I mean, Marty Brodeur played into his 40s, and he never changed his style. So. And it seemed to work for him the whole time. So it's kind of, goaltending is one of those things where everyone kind of has their own style a little bit, and everyone has what works for them. And, you can always build on it, but if you stray from your own game too much, then, you're going to be forcing things. So goaltending is a very unique position, I think, in that regard. So it's hard to predict where it's going, but I think if you want to get a glimpse at it, it's probably watching the top guys in World Juniors.
Well, what kind of stuff are they doing? Like, because I'd love to hear it from you. I mean, you know more watching this stuff than we do. Like, when you watch those young guys, like, what are they like? What are the differentiation points?
Their edges. They have great edges. They play with control. that's the kind of things that I see. There's, positionally they're really well because forwards they're getting so much better at changing the angles, making plays and stuff. So not playing too, managing depth has been a big thing that I see. I think those are probably the things I've noticed the most.
Why do you think we are all so bad at analyzing goaltending? I mean, the data's weak. What we talk about, the goalie's big. He's, if we're talking he's weak, high blocker side, it's like we're reinventing the wheel. How do we evaluate goalies? How should we?
Please tell us.
Yeah, please make us better.
I'm not a scout.
Yeah.
I think it's because it is kind of individual. Like I was saying, guys have things that work for them. We were talking about Quickie earlier. He's a guy who he plays his own style. No one really plays like Quickie. Marty Brodeur, like I was saying earlier, he had his style that no one could replicate. So I think it's and you from the very beginning of when you're a goalie, a young kid, you're probably developing your style as you go. So it's kind of an art form, I guess, where you have your style and you kind of take bits and pieces from guys you see or guys you play with, and it's not so cookie cutter. It's not like a one size fits all. Like you're a butterfly goalie, you're a stand up goalie. It's not really like that. There's different elements, and some guys read shots better. Some guys make lateral plays better. Some guys have stronger edges. It's just how you blend all that together, and different guys blend it together in different ratios. So no two goaltenders are ever going to be the same, and maybe that's why it's so hard if you're trying to just make it a black and white scouting report on goalie. It's not really like that. There's a lot more elements that go into it, and that's just kind of the physical stuff that you see. Then there's the mental side of it that that's just as complex probably.
When the Kings called you up in December, I'm sure you had a sense like, all right, this is an opportunity for me. Like it felt like the net was open. How did you balance that with your actual play? Because you got off to a hot start. You were 9-1 in your first 10 games. You're one goal start to kick things off. How did you balance like the idea that this was the opportunity you're looking for? This was kind of an audition shot there with actually performing, because that's a tough balance to strike. I'm sure your eyes could have gotten big if you approach it a little differently.
Yeah, I try and always just take things one game at a time. I think too much what's going on in the situation, whether it's good or bad, because things can snowball in the wrong direction if you're too much about the bigger picture. It's kind of what's going on in that moment and rolling with that. So when I got called up, I had known, I didn't know if I was going to play at all, but I just knew there may be an opportunity. So I just wanted to keep preparing for myself for the opportunity. And that's kind of just been my MO for the last couple of years, on a day-to-day basis. Just come to the rink and continue to get better and continue to try and create opportunities and take advantage of opportunities that I can.
So you're approaching, your heaviest workload yet in terms of games played at the NHL level. Is there anything you've changed about your routine this year versus years past to like manage that a little bit differently and, deal with fatigue if that's a problem more than years past?
I think it has been kind of over the past few years for me learning to manage the workload in practice. And that's something I've taken stuff I've learned the last few years into this year, and having someone like Billy Ranford and seeing Quickie as well, how they handle things. And Billy's been good with, reminding me at times, you don't need to stay out after practice and take a bunch of shots. It's, when you're playing a lot, it's something to be cognizant of, not getting too much practice time where it'll cause fatigue. So that's just been something that I've been aware of. It hasn't really been a huge change because, like I said, I've been trying to work that into my practice time and games, the management of my workload. So it's just been something I've continued to learn with and grow.
Do you have a preference of like gameplay in front of you? Are you a goaltender that prefers maybe a more low event game that you're facing fewer shots, but the more challenging shots? Or are you someone who prefers, does it help you to be busy with just facing, a high number of shots, even if they're not the best quality?
I like a challenge. I like facing the other team's top players, but I don't really think too much. I've never really thought about that because it's kind of something, I just have to play the game that's in front of me. I can't really wish that I'm going to have a certain game a certain way because it never really pans out as you think. So, I like the challenge. I always tell myself that, I want to face the other team's best players and in their best situations. So that's how I can test myself to see how good I am. So I'm always prepared for that, but I'm not really thinking about what kind of game is going to be at me. I'm just preparing for any situation that can be difficult for me, and whatever happens.
Is there a trick to being a good teammate as a goalie? Because I've seen a lot of the guys you play with, hold you in a high regard. Is there some fairy dust that you have that helps down? Because honestly, it seems like it's like the guys gas you up on that front a lot. Is there any how does that work when you are kind of separate from the skaters, whether it's in coaching or whatever? Is there any like tricks there that you figured out?
I just want to be a good teammate, whether I'm playing or not. I want to support the team, and I love winning. Regardless of if I'm in net or not, I want to be a part of a winning team. So, that's great to hear that guys have said that. But yeah, I think maybe that's why. And in practice, I like to be a part of a challenge. So I'm always battling in drills. I think maybe that could be possibly a reason why. But I've played with great teammates and I've played with a lot of good teams. So I'm fortunate in that regard. But yeah, like I said, I just want to do what I can to be a part of a winning team.
The group you guys had in Hershey a couple of, over those years with the Caps. It was at one point it was you and Vanacek and Grubauer. I mean, you guys are. It's a pipeline for starting goaltenders. If you look at like whatever the Hershey Bears in 2015 or 16, are those guys you keep in touch with, or how do you look back on those groups that you were with a few years back?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate in my whole career. I've played with a lot of really good goalies. My first year with Gruby, and then I was with Binnington, Husso in Chicago. I've been with Vanacek for quite a while in Hershey. Fucali in Hershey, who's another great goalie. So I've been really fortunate with my goalie partners. I've been able to learn a lot from them, and I feel like I've always had a great relationship with them. So that's something that's definitely helped me in my career. Just kind of learning from those guys, working with those guys. But yeah, I think it also speaks, the guys in Hershey speaks to the goalie coaches there, Alex Westland. He's now with Detroit, but he was in Hershey for quite a while. And working with him, that helped me a lot, and I think it helped those guys too. And also Scotty Murray, who's with the Capitals. He was with me my first year in Hershey, and then up in Washington as well. And he was another guy who was really big for me, helping develop my game. But I think also, as you can see, those other guys obviously benefited from them as well. So I think, it speaks to the goalie coaches. And then when I was in Chicago, we had Ty Conklin there who was helping Binnington and Husso and myself. So I think it just kind of speaks to the coaching. And then, we were all pushing each other, trying during ice time. So all of those guys and myself, I think just pushing each other and the coaching helped us have more success.
Do you ever get asked for like a scouting report on goalies that you've played with before? Say you're going up against someone like Husso or Binnington, who you know well. Do your teammates ever ask for some tips on how to beat them?
Not so much in the NHL. I feel like they do a pretty good job of pre-scouting at the NHL level. Sometimes in the American League, like if we're playing against someone I've played with or I know, then I'll get some questions like, where can I shoot? What's his weakness? Yeah, they do a pretty good job at the NHL level, like giving out a good pre-scout on all the other players.
So you just signed the contract extension. You signed for 1 year and $1.5 million through next season. Why was this the right time for that? Was it just a matter of being comfortable and wanting to build off it, or like, was there any particular, is there anything to read into with the timing there?
I mean, not really necessarily with the timing. I think, they came to me with an offer, and I was very happy because it's a great organization. Like I said, they want to win. They're doing the right things. So, I knew right away I wanted to be here, so it was just a matter of working through that. And I was happy to resign here, and I'm happy to be a part of what's going on here. And I want to be a part and play my part in the process that's going on here. So I'm excited. The timing wasn't really not much to read into. I don't think it just kind of when it happened.
So is being in LA helped with Athletes Apothecary at all with the with the tea and hydration business? Is that there been any uptick there since you've taken over?
Yeah, I mean, we started that about a year and a half ago. Athletes Apothecary is the company that my fiance and I started about a year and a half ago. But it's just been kind of steadily growing. We've had more interest, and we mostly do teas. We have a couple superfood blends as well. But yeah, and I've had teammates in Hershey that are still using it that really like it, and then some guys here have tried it and like it. I've tried not to really push on guys too much because it's kind of something that I think, if you're into teas and that kind of thing, it's awesome. When we were in Pennsylvania, my fiance and I were going to farmers markets and kind of making our own tea blends from ingredients we were getting there, and I started to realize that it was pretty beneficial. It was helping me with my sleep. It was helping me stay hydrated. So we started to do some research on different herbs and fruits and spices that you can mix into teas and the effect they'll have as far as recovery and hydration and sleep. And so, we were like, well, this is kind of cool. We can probably help a lot more people with this. So we decided to make a company, and we got in touch with a nutritionist who helped us finalize more of the blends and make them more of what we were looking for. And so that's up and going, and it's been good. Definitely, I guess LA is probably a good spot, but as far as that goes, but for me, it's kind of like a hobby thing, and my fiance runs it on the day-to-day during the season. But yeah, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, athletesapothecary.com. We have some pretty good tea blends if you're interested in that.
That's great. Yeah, I was reading up on it. Hydration, recovery. Those are all the sorts of things you need when you're a starting goaltender in February in the NHL season. Right? So thanks for the time, man. Good luck the rest of the way out, and we'll catch up with you down the road.
Sounds good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.